In this video, I'm going to be running through the Unit 1 hands-on review, which I've posted on Blackboard. If you take a look at the assignments folder, or assignments button, and then you should see a Unit 1 review folder. It's not available currently, but it will be when you see this video. And in this Unit 1 review folder, I have a multiple choice review, and some of these actual questions will be on the multiple choice test. So if that's not incentive enough to take this review quiz, the fact that I'm making it worth 25 points should prompt you to go ahead and get on there and take it. So it's worth a decent chunk of points. Take that. And then I have a review video over prime numbers. This isn't a program that you will be turning in for any points, but it's just an extra review, and I strongly urge you to watch that video. And then I also have this Unit 1 hands-on review. This one is worth 10 points just for completing this guided practice, this review guided practice. Okay, so if you open up that Word document, here is the instructions for the hands-on review. I say write a program that receives a series of test scores and computes the average, dropping the lowest test score. Sentinel value should be used to indicate the end of the list. Individual test scores need not be kept for the lowest score so that it can be subtracted from the running total at the end of the input sequence. Okay, so I'm going to start a brand new project. I'll call it Unit 1 Review. Create a folder for it. So I'll say this program computes test score averages, dropping the lowest test score. And don't want to forget my using namespace standard. Okay, so right off the bat, if I know that I'm going to need some variables, and you don't have to, when you start writing your program, know all the variables you're going to use. If you know ones you are going to use, go ahead and declare them, and you can always come back up here at the top and declare more later. I'm going to create a double, and I'll call it maybe DBL running total. And that's something that I haven't really been consistent on in some of these videos, is a naming convention. It is a good idea to put the data type in front of the name of your variable. DBL for double, int or in for integer, str for string. Running total, and I'm going to initialize that to 0. And then we also need to keep track of the lowest score, so I'll have one double lowest score. and then the user will be inputting scores as they go along. So we'll have a storage location for that particular score. And then I'm going to have an integer for the total number of tests. So we need to keep track of how many tests there are, so that if we want to compute the average, then we'll know what to divide by. So int n, number of tests. You'll have to excuse my dogs. They're having a nice day outside. Okay, so I'm going to start by prompting the user, and I'll say this program averages a series of test scores, and dropping the lowest score. I'm going to put an inline there, and probably a comma here. Enter first score. So I'm just going to assume that they're going to at least type one score, and I'll read that in before my loop. And then if we're going to be keeping track of the lowest score, then we need to initialize that lowest score to at least the first score. There may only be one or two scores, and if we don't initialize this, then in C++, it's unpredictable what the value will be in there. Some of you might think, well, let me just initialize it to 0. Well, that wouldn't work, because that would probably be the lowest score. You could possibly initialize it to 100 if you know that all of these scores are on a 100-point scale. And I wouldn't have a problem with that, really. But the one surefire way to know that the lowest score is actually going to be one of your scores is to initialize it to, or at least not initialize it, but give it the value of your first score after you've taken that first score. So that's what I'm going to do. I think that's the safest thing to do. Makes the program more dynamic. Like I said, the scores might not be on a 100-point scale. You don't know if, you could use this program to just average any set of numbers, and it wouldn't necessarily have to be test scores. So this makes it more versatile, not giving it an initial value, but storing the value of the first test score in there. And then now I need a loop that will continue to get test scores from the user. So I'm going to use a sentinel value, and if you hopefully picked that up from the PowerPoint set in chapters, I believe chapters 4 and 5, using a sentinel value to exit a loop is using some value that's not going to be a typical value. So it can be an extreme value or a dummy value. I'm going to have this loop continue to get test scores while double score is not equal to, I'm going to use -99. And then I'll prompt the user inside my while loop and let them know, hey, if you want to quit, then type -99 as the test score. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do inside the loop is increment my number of tests. Currently, we've taken at least one test score, right? So we can increment it by 1. And then my running total, double running total, I'm going to increase it by the score that we just read in, double score. So plus equals double score. Okay, so what we're doing here is we are bumping up the number of tests and adding last score to the running total. Okay, so inside this loop I need to prompt the user, or reprompt actually, for another test score, and here's where I will give them the instructions that they need to use -99 as their exiting value. So I will say enter next score or -99 to calculate average. If they type in -99, this loop will come back and check, and if it's -99, it will exit and not increment the test scores anymore, and it won't, add that -99 to the running total, since we're asking this after that stuff's done. Okay. The other thing we need to do inside of this loop is keep track of the lowest score. So I could put it here, but the problem with doing that is if the user typed in -99 to exit, then -99 would go in as the lowest score, which isn't what we want. So I'm actually going to squeeze that logic in between these two blocks here, and I'm going to say keep track of lowest score. So if double score is less than double lowest score, then I want to place or store that score value into lowest score. So double lowest score gets double score. Okay, so that's where I'm putting that logic, so that the -99 won't accidentally go in there as the lowest score, since we're using that as the sentinel value. This is important for every additional iteration that it does. Okay, then after our loop, that's when we can finally calculate our running total, and we need to drop the lowest score. And I'm going to drop the lowest score first. So I am going to take my running total, and I'm going to subtract from it the lowest score, and then that's what I need to store into my running total. So I'm going to copy that variable name here. By the way, copy and paste, use it as much as you can. It will make your programming quicker and easier. Just be careful that when you do copy and paste, if there's anything that needs to be changed about it, you change it. So that will get rid of my lowest score, and then I also need to remove 1 from the number of tests. So I'm going to do in number of tests, and I'm just going to do minus minus. So I'm going to decrement the number of tests by 1. And then as a point of review, I'm going to create a function that will calculate the average, and instead of just putting that logic right here in my main. And I'll call that function directly from my output here. So I'll calculate average and display. And I'll say the average test score, or let's say the average of the test scores is, maybe I'll make a comment in there and say not including the lowest score. And I'll display the lowest score for them. Lowest score of and then display lowest, double lowest score. And you wouldn't have to put this on a separate line, but I'm doing that just so it kind of fits on the screen here for you. You could have this cout statement be one long cout statement with these insertion operators in between them, kind of daisy chaining them together. Is and I'll call a function that I'm going to call calc average, and I'm going to pass to it double running total, as well as my n number of tests. Okay, and that will display that. Okay, so I'm going to declare this function and then define this function. So I'm going to declare it up here at the top, and it's going to return a double. So I'm going to make it double calc average, and it's going to receive a double, and I'm going to call it double numerator, double denominator, or that's maybe a little bit too generic for a function that I'm calling calc average. Maybe I'll call this double total, and then this one will be, actually these are going to be integers, I'm sorry. The denominator will be int number of items. How about? And my description, this function receives the sum of let's say the sum of values and the total, that might be confusing since I'm calling double total, and the number of items that are summed in the first argument, and returns the average of the items. Okay, so my function definition, the header will be the same as this without the semicolon, so I'm going to copy it, and then down here is where I define my function, paste, remove the semicolon. Okay, and this thing is just going to return a single value, and it'll be the double total divided by n number of items. So Again, this function may not seem necessary. We could just do that up here, and that's true. But we want to get used to writing and creating our own functions. In this next unit, we will be creating larger programs that will, several times throughout the running of the program have these functions that they will need to execute, and this will save us having to type that code over and over again. So the usefulness of functions will become more apparent in larger projects. For now, we're just practicing doing them. Okay, I'm going to run this and give it a shot here. Save it. Any errors? Big money, no whammy. Oh, I have a semicolon here at the end. Since I'm carrying my lines over, that semicolon shouldn't be there. Okay. This program averages a series of test scores, dropping the lowest. Enter the first score. Let's start with a high score, 98. Enter the next score, or negative 99 to calculate average. Let's do an 85. Let's do a 46. That'll be our lowest score. And then maybe a 78. And then a, how about 62? And then another A. Let's do a 94. And then I'll type negative 99. That should exit my loop. It does. The average of the test scores, not including the lowest score of 46, is 83.4. Okay. All right. That concludes this guided practice. The exam coming up, what you'll need to do is contact your closest OTC campus and schedule a time with them, with the testing center, and that information I'm posting right now up on your screen. Schedule in that time with them to take your test. It is I notified the testing center that this is an open everything exam, so as long as you have your previous projects, you can look through them for help and guidance, as well as the notes or and even the textbook if you would like. So, good luck on this upcoming exam. Make sure you email me with any problems, and happy programming. Know yourself.